Dear learners, welcome back to SWAYAM NPTEL course on library automation and networking. This is week 1, module number 1, lecture number 3, and title of this particular lecture is Library Automation, History and Generations. Dear learners, we have discussed much about library automation, its definitions, and how do you perform such kind of a library automation for housekeeping operations, and what are the different types of services can be provided to users. So when we talk about something, we should know about the history of such kind of an activities, how these things have been evolved, and what is the present scenario, and what could be the future of such kind of an activities. It is always an interesting matter that when we look into the history of a particular concept or a service or activities. Even in the similar way, we will be looking into some of the aspects of or the historical aspects and the generations of library automation, how this particular library automation has been evolved within India as well as in the international level. So when we talk about library automation, as we know that when we talk something about automation, it is machine related or computer related. The evolvement or the evolution of computers also been equally important in such cases, how the history has been evolved. So when you look back into libraries, so as we know that the traditional libraries are like they are all storehouse of books. We can say that only the documents were there. That too, they kept it in a locked condition where people will not be able to access. They just go and see and then they ask the librarian and then they get the book. But the scenario has been completely changed when such kind of activities which are related to mechanized or computerized in the other areas also. Similarly, in libraries also, the evolution has happened. Why? Because the information communication technologies, these have been evolved, or telecommunication also been evolved during a particular period of time. In the other way, users also keep on asking about information which are highly required for them, that in a different formats, that too in a speedy manner. So all these communication, telecommunication, networking system, information and communication technology, all together when we talk about, these had a high influence or highly impacted in the evolution of library automation in libraries. So as a library professional, they always have a challenge before them. So there are two sides of a challenge, like they have to keep up with or they have to update with the technology in which they should be familiar or they should be skilled, as well as the users also, they are coming with a lot of expectations. So in order to meet their expectation as well as different requirements, so the library professional always need to have some kind of a strategy or techniques they have to use to make them happy with the information requirement they are asking for. So the concept of library automation has come in such a way that the demands from the users keep on changing, and also the advent of information communication technologies and also the telecommunication technologies. So the library automation, which is also progressed along with the progress in the information and communication technologies. So when we look back to the history, during 1930s, we can see that people used to have punch cards. So that was the first sign of a history in terms of library and information science when we talk about library automation. These punched cards were used for performing the circulation system. That could be the root of library automation history in the international level. And further, the process of indexing also been mechanized or computerized, or we can say that they have used some kind of a semi-mechanical methods, say for example post-coordinate indexing system to derive the keywords or subject terms. So that could also be another evolution in which library automation history is associated with. And further, as we know that to perform a particular automation, so we need some kind of a software. So the evolution of integrated library system, or what we call it as library management software, even in the commercial side or open source categories, so they also started evolving. And finally, this information communication technology has been developed in such an extent, even the digital libraries, institutional repositories, telecommunications, internet, www, web 2.3, 4.0, etc. So all these categories made a complete revolution in the library and information science also. Because when some technology has been introduced in the computer science or data science area, so that will always have some kind of an application in libraries also. So in that way, it is the general scenario where the automation history has been evolved. And there are many organizations at international level as well as national level. They also been contributed for the development of library automation in terms of developing softwares. Say for example, UNESCO has developed CDS ISIS. So that is also a revolutionary change in the field of library and information science when we talk about the library automation, because many of the people, they have adopted the CDS ISIS for making their database as a database management system. So all these together, we can say that this is the complete general history of library automation in the international scenario. And as we know that in order to use such kind of an automation procedures or softwares, people should be trained in a proper manner. So training as well as teaching, curriculum, syllabus or courses, etc. So these also made some kind of an impact on library and information centers to provide the library automation, so that the history starts and history develop in such a way that how the information and communication technology parallelly developed. So during 1930s and 1940s, when you look back to the library's history or history of library automation, the progress on computer systems were very slow because of the effect or the depression which has made by the Second World War. So in that way, when you look at 1940s or before 1945, there were no much introduction of computers in libraries. So automation was literally not there during this period. So during 1945 to 1960, we can see that there is a kind of an exploration in the use of computers among the library professionals and the libraries also. And during 1960 to 1975, literally meaning libraries started using computers, though it was personal computers or the computers which are very large in volume and very large in size also, but people used to have such kind of a machines in the libraries during 1960 to 1970s. And during 1975 and 1990s, when you look at the history, so libraries almost embraced the application of computers at different activities and services. So the real library automations were happening during after 1975 till 1990s. When you look at the year 1990s and after 1990s till date, the computers became an integral part of library and information centers as well as GLAM, like galleries, libraries, archives and museums, because it has become an integral part of library automation as well as providing the services and also the major portion of the works which are handled by computers and softwares in the library scenario. And the recent times, as we know that all the technologies like the advanced information retrieval technologies like artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning and natural language processing, all these concepts have been come, even including the semantic web. So because of the exponential growth of internet or information and communication technology, the same had somehow impacted on libraries also. It is not just like we are making the automated libraries, but apart from that, we are having almost in all the areas the practice of implementing computers and networking technologies. And when we look at the history of library automation in an year-wise or in a hierarchical mode or in a chronological way, so we can go one by one in such a way that as we have seen that this particular library automation concept has been evolved when people started using punch cards during the year 1930s. But before that, we could see a particular method in which stereotype plates were used, that too during 1850s. So these type of methods were used, so that can be seen in the literature. So the root maybe we can say in that way that started from 1850s and further it has been developed as punched card. by IBM. And during 1945, microforms, magnetic tapes and magnetic drums. So these are all used to store the information, and some of the cases the dates or the duration is not much clear, or there is no authentic data about such kind of an information or evolvement of concept. And development of ENIAC, as we know that the development of computers also had a great impact on libraries for library automation. So during 1946, the development of ENIAC, electronic numerical integrator and calculator, which is developed by John Mackley and J. Presper Eckert. They were associated with University of Pennsylvania. So they have developed such a system where the information can be stored in a small kind of data type. Further, 1947, invention of transistors, and 1945, the computer EDVAC, and the origin of Information and Documentation Center in USA during 1945, during 1950, and during 1960, there was a revolutionary change in the computer technology by the invention of the integrated circuits. And 1961, the invention of IC, and then keyword indexing systems, and also cooperative library networks. Further, 1966, like machine readable catalog, and this has been two parts like Mark I and Mark II. Again 1969, ARPANET. 1974, the Mark II, which became the basis for metadata standard or bibliographical standard. And then the arrival of microcomputers and the availability of punched card in the national and international levels during 1980s. And during 1993, World Wide Web. So when you look at this scenario, that how the hierarchical changes have been happened in the historical aspects of library automation, so you can see that even from different aspects that has been growing continuously because of that growth of invention of many technologies and invention of many kind of such activities and services. So through these, even during the networking systems, so because of that, the library automation has been developed in such a way that we can see the historical aspects or historical development of library automation in international as well as Indian scenario. So here you can see the structure of a punched card and how a particular machine is developing the punched card system. So punched card machine also we can see it has some kind of a small holes where that will be created for generating some kind of a data and storing it. So this is also one of the oldest concept, call it as book wheels, where the heavy books will be kept it on this particular wheel. So whenever a person wanted to read a book, so this need to be rotated so that it is easy to handle, because all those books were very bulky and the weight of that book is very high. The volume of the book is also large, so that people can handle in such a easy manner, so that this particular machine has been used. So this is developed by Agostino Ramelli. And further you can see the historical developments of punched card, magnetic tapes, microfilms, microfiche, magnetic tapes, and stereotype printing. So all these are developed during particular year, and once the year goes and the advent of technologies have evolved, along with that the computerization or mechanization or automation also been developed. So now let us look into the scenario of India, where this particular historical aspects of library automation has been developed. The state of automation in Indian libraries, we can see that all the leading organizations like Indian Institute of Technologies, Indian Institute of Management, Central Universities, Institute of National Importance, so they have somehow started applying such kind of automation system Why? Because when the organization is having something which is related to computers or computer technology, normally that will have some kind of an implication or application in libraries also. So when the organization started using such kind of a machines or computers for different activities, and even for the libraries also they have been started using such kind of a technologies. When you look back to the historical aspects in Indian scenario, how the library automation has been evolved, we need to look into the how the development has been progress in the university systems and institute of national importance also. And there were different types of education policies, and as part of educational policies, and when we talk about institutions, the libraries are part of that. So obviously that will come to the libraries also. If something is related to organization, implementation of computerization, the same thing will come to the libraries also. So some kind of a policy or educational policy, national level policies also made some kind of an impact on the development of automation in libraries in Indian scenario. And apart from that, 1990s, as we know that the computers were made a revolutionary changes, so people started purchasing and using the computers. That is also had an impact on the development of library automation in Indian scenario. And 1992, UGC also made some kind of a development in such a way that the curriculum of library and information science has been included as a part of domain or a subject. So there are many such kind of an organization. We can say that special associations or organization like DRTC in Bengaluru, and there are many such organizations, ISI Calcutta. So on many of the libraries they have started using computers. So all such kind of an effort made the revolutionary changes in the acceptance of computers as well as automation in libraries in India. So during 1955, Indian Statistical Institute, ISI Calcutta, they have started using computers in their libraries. And during 1964, INSTOC or Indian National Scientific Documentation Center, they also started using computers in the IITs. During 1965, Indian Science Abstract, which is computerized by making the author index. During 1967, roster of Indian scientific and technical translators, and further DeciDoc has been developed their own softwares with the advent of CDS-ISIS as an advanced form of CDS-ISIS. DeciDoc also developed a software package for NISAT, and the name of that particular software is Sanjay. It was an integrated library system software based on the UNESCO CDS-ISIS, and the language was used is Pascal. And further again DeciDoc developed another software that is also an automation software, Sujika. And INSTOC, they have initially developed a software called Catman, and further they developed eGranthalaya, which is highly being used in Indian scenario right now. And during 1970s, many libraries have been started using such kind of a softwares or integrated library system in their libraries to automate the libraries. And same time, library networking system also been developed, so people started using sharing the resources as well as sharing the expertises. The chemical abstract, which has developed 1978, inspect databases, DeciDoc's defense library management system, and the commercial software we call it as Lipsys, which was highly established software, and people normally in the higher education institutions, libraries were started using or this particular software in the commercial background as a commercial or proprietary integrated library system. So during 1970s, National Aeronautic Laboratory NAL also started using softwares, and they have started computerizing their circulation control. And further 1976 INSTOC, they have started a new service called computerized selective dissemination of information service. And further many organizations like BHEL, INSPEC, and other librarians also started using in different colleges or university system. So this is the complete scenario how the development of automation has been evolved in the case of Indian scenario. And the contribution of national library networks like InflipNet, DELNet, and also the associations we need to remember in this particular historical aspects when we talk about how the library automation has been evolved in the Indian scenario. So all such corporations or networking system or resource sharing processes or library coordination and cooperation, and apart from that the level of UGC and the institutions and organizations, so they all made a high contributions for the development of library automation and also the networking technologies in the library scenario in India. So dear learners, I hope that you got a good idea about the historical aspects of library automation in India as well as international level. Now let us look into the generations of library automation in India, how this particular generation can be classified. So there are generations. We can say that the first generation, which has been started during the year 1960 to 1972, where we use punch cards, in-house developed commercial softwares, creation of document finding systems, circulation control, procurement control, etc., and also shared cataloging process. So these are all happened during the first generation of automation of libraries in India. And the second generation, when you look at the emergence of Union Catalog, which was during the year 1973 to 1985, formation of library consortia, and the highly established networking system so that libraries can connect each other, and also the changes in the cataloging systems like online public access catalog, where people can access the bibliographical details of any of the information of any of the libraries in anywhere in the country, and also softwares used which are compatible to DOS version, Unix versions, etc. And further, the third generation of library automation during the year 1986 to 1988, where major development has been happened, such as electronic resources and their full text access, digital libraries and application of CDSIC software, multimedia compatible library automation systems, network systems like local area network, wide area network, etc., and emergence of open source software solutions so that people can use such kind of a software without paying any amount. So such kind of a free or open source software has made a revolutionary changes in the library, in which they started using the softwares for library automation. And apart from that, softwares have been highly developed. They were compatible with the operating systems, and they also had developed a very good interface. We call it as graphical user interface, where the interactive portals or interactive user interface has been developed. So these are all the third generation of automation in libraries in India. And the fourth generation, which is normally during the year 1999 to 2011, where all such kind of digital materials, electronic resources, electronic books, electronic databases, and also multimedia databases have been evolved, and also highly developed client and server systems, topologies. So all these networking systems have been highly developed, so the communication has been easy, resource sharing has been easy. So these are all happened in the fourth generation of library automation in India. And the last generation, we can say that it is a fifth generation of library automation from 2011 to the present. So there are a lot of changes and there are a lot of activities and recent developments which are happening in the libraries also, and that is the reason why libraries are much more developed when you look back to the histories. So integrated library systems, discovery tools, federated search, natural language processing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning. So all such kind of technologies or application of information search and retrieval process have been developed. So this is also, we can call that 5th generation of library automation in India. So dear learners, this is the complete scenario how the generation has happened in each and every time. So there is a huge impact of technology as well as information and communication systems, networking technologies, etc. So they made a high impact on libraries to develop their own services and their own activities in an advanced format. So dear learners, with this let me conclude this particular session. We have discussed much about the historical aspects of library automation as well as what are the generations which are happened in the Indian scenario, which are majorly divided into 5 major divisions based on the year in which they have evolved and the technologies in which they have evolved. And now we look at in the present scenario, as we know that from during 1980s to 2020s, so the revolutionary changes which are happened in the libraries. So many technologies, so many activities and so many networking systems. So all together which has made a complete revolution in the scenario of library and information centers, and libraries are accordingly been changing, providing maximum advanced services, adopting the technologies in terms of providing services as well as activities to the users. As we know that each and every time parallelly this changing of users demands, because the users demands are advancing, they are looking for multiple resources, multiple formats, and their mentality and their perceptions, all these things towards libraries have been changed. Now the physical format of the library concept has been completely changed into a virtual format or a digital format, where the collection will be in a digital and electronic formats. People will be able to access in a without any kind of interruption, even from the either from physically coming to the libraries or accessing such kind of a resource in a remote access method. Dear learners, with this I hope that you could get a clear understanding about the historical aspects as well as generations and the present scenario of library automation in Indian scenario. Thank you.